Hi everyone, hope you're enjoying today. Thank you so much for coming. And as Anita said, I'm the new broadleaf agronomist, and I'm really happy to say that I'm continuing the work that Dr. Hans Kandel started. So and today I'm going to be talking about drive-ins. So I don't have to tell you that drive-ins is a big thing here in North Dakota. We rank first in production and acreage, and we can boast about that. We can say, okay, it's really nice to have all this diversity that we have. We were talking about drive-ins, and we want to see where drive-ins are located in North Dakota. We can say that it's pretty much distributed in the center and the east of the state. And when we're talking about drive-ins, it's something that it's really different to other crops because we have so many class markets. And so if you see all the colors, the shapes, the sizes that we have, we might even think that they're different species, but no, it's the same plant. Even though, and that's where production enters, is that all these different classes, they have different management practices that relate to. So when we're talking about this, we can say that most of the market class that we produce here in North Dakota is pinto beans, and then in a second place we have black beans. So we are going to be talking a little bit more about pinto black than the other by market classes as cranberry or something like that. So did you touch this?
Um, I did. Okay, sorry.
No worries.
Okay.
So just to keep going, I'm going to be talking a little bit about previous studies and publications that.
I'm worried like whether it is recording or not.
Yes, no worries. And previous publications that NDSU have been working with. And then I'm going to be started talking about plant density and row spacing. And there is one reason that. Because this is the main practice that it will change when you are comparing different market classes. It's not working. Sorry. So I'm going to keep saying, at the end of this presentation, I'm going to share a folder that has all the publications I'm going to be talking about. So if you want to check them and to see them in more detail, it will be now, yes. So I'm going to be talking about, start talking about pinto beans, row spacing, and plant population. So this is something really cool. I like to say this is something really important that NDSU does, and is gathering a lot of information. So when we see this publication, we are seeing that we are gathering information from 11 site years. So it tests this practice in so many environments, in so many sites. So it really gives a robust response. So when we're talking about pinto beans and we're talking about row spacing, we are seeing that there is an effect here of having shorter row spacing. We're seeing that we have a significant yield difference when we have shorter. And when we combine this also with plant density, what we're seeing here is that we have two treatments there. One is more close to 70,000, and another is closer to 50,000. What we're seeing here is that the standard one, that will be the green one, the 17,000, has higher yield than the one that's lower. So basically what we're seeing is that if you cut off in your plant density, you might have a penalty in your yield. And this is not all. If we actually tested comparison between 70,000 and even having close to 90,000 plants per acre, what we're seeing here is that, again, we might have a yield advantage. And something I want to say about this specific slide here and this specific result is that when we were talking about the previous two studies I was showing, we were talking about 8, 11 environments that we were testing. Instead, in this one, we are only testing 3 site years. So it's not as robust as the previous information. So we can clearly say that around 70,000 is a good number to have our pinto bean plant population. And I'm stressing pinto because now we are going to be talking a little bit about black and navy beans. So this responds to plant density and row spacing. So again, this is black beans now, and we're comparing 3 different row spacings. And what we are seeing here is, again, the shorter row spacing had higher yield compared to the other ones. And we're seeing that this has a significant statistical difference. So having this shorter row spacing seems to be better. But when we move with black beans to plant population, and here, if you see the numbers here, you can see clearly that between pinto and black beans, we are seeing clear difference in the plant population ranges that we work. What we are seeing here is that if we try 90,000, if we try 120,000, if we try 150,000, we have no significance in this difference. So it will be the same if you plant 150,000 or if you plant 90,000 in black beans. So it's not something that is recommended to do. Then we move to navy, and this experiment is so interesting because the difference between the other one is that in this one we are seeing the interaction between row spacing and plant population. So what we see here is that the colors of the columns are the different plant populations and and then we have the 3 different row spaces. What we are seeing here is that when we go wider in our row spacing with 21 and 28 inches, our yields are dropping. And when we go to the shortest with the 14 inches, what we can see here is that the higher plant populations had better yield. And I didn't include the letters, I'm sorry about that, but these 2 plant populations had a significant higher yield compared to the other ones. So I think I'm going a little bit fast, I'm sorry about that, but I'm trying to have some minutes at the end if you have any questions. But if you want to ask anything, please just stop me. So now I'm going to move to another management practice that I want to discuss with you, and is planting dates. So for this experiment, NDSU tested 6 site years and 3 market types. What we tested here is basically dividing the planting dates in 3 categories. It will be having an early planting date that will be from mid-May to late May, and then what is normal, that will be from late May to early June, and then a late one that's basically mid-June. Yes. So again, the different color of the columns here are these different ranges of planting dates. And then we have the 3 market classes that we tested, that is pinto, black, and navy. And what we got from this result is that there were no significant difference. So if you were planting super early or if you were planting mid-June, it really didn't matter. We didn't find a trend that says, okay, you should be planting at this moment. So if you planted any day from mid-May to mid-June, you probably will have the same result in terms of yield. But I have to say, there is this preconcept that says that the early that you plant, you will have higher yield potential, even though that was not shown with these results. And there is a reason behind this kind of reasoning, and I would like to discuss that with you a little bit. So going back to growing a plant 101, there's 3 things that we might need for growing a plant. That is sunlight, that is actually the energy of the sun, the radiation from the sun that we need. We need water, and we need nutrients. And when we're talking about the planting date, we might be changing a little bit the water regime that we are exposing. We are not changing much our nutrient capacity, but we are changing a lot the radiation that we are exposing our crop. And it's really easy to see when we see a calendar. So if we plant mid-May, and we think that we will have our first frost probably early October, we have all this time that our crop is accumulating radiation. It has more time in the field gathering all that energy from the sun. Instead, if we plant a little bit later, we are losing time. We're just losing time of accumulating radiation. And then why we are not seeing that yield difference that we might expect from planting it a little bit earlier, right? So what is happening is that we have different moments of the year that we know that there might be more stressful, right? That we have that July drought that we are expecting, something like that, right? And then what is happening is that we are exposing different moments of the growth stage of our plants, of our crop, to these different environment, right? These different conditions. So saying that, we talk a little bit about that we know that we are going to have that freeze early in October, and I just wanted to show this. This is a resource from the Midwestern Regional Climate Center, and it's basically saying, okay, which is the day that it's more probable that we will have a freeze. So we have the hard freeze of 28 Fahrenheit degrees that we know that is going to happen between the 1st of October and the 10th of October. So what can we do? What can we think about that? So there is some tips that we should consider. First, which market class we are going to work with, depending this. We know that pinto beans and navy beans are more sensible to freeze. So if you have temperatures already of 30 to 32 degrees, we might be already having some damage. And then the other thing that we have to consider when we're talking about freeze damage is that, okay, depending in which moment of our crop we have the damage, the thing is going to be, the damage is going to be completely different. So the worst case scenario, it will be when our pods are already green and feeling green. So the later we get the frost, of course, the damages will be lower. So what can we do? The suggestions from NDSU is basically harvest at the maximum moisture that is permissible. So it will be between 17 and 18 for navy, and 14 and 16 for pinto beans. So the whole structure of the grain changes when it faces a freeze. So the dry down of these damaged grains will be different. So just go and harvest it as soon as possible. The other thing is, if you can identify sections in your field that were damaged, or you know that you have like late maturity in that part, try to harvest separately to sell it separately, and that will at least help you with the price. So there's things like the high areas of the field probably will be drier and will crack more. So try to harvest those earlier. So just know your field and just address these differences. So I'm going to move now to another management practice here that I want to talk about, and I'm going to refer to this amazing publication that Dr. Franzen did, and I'm not going to go through all this publication, but I really recommend you just download it and read it. It was published on 2023, so it's kind of new. But regarding all the nutrients that we know that the plant needs, I'm going to be talking first about nitrogen. When we're talking about nitrogen, I have to say there is two things that we know we can do when we're working with dry beans, because dry beans are a leguminous crop. That means that we have the option of inoculations, because it has this relationship with this bacteria that fixates nitrogen. So we can take advantage of that. And the other thing that we can do is we can fertilize with nitrogen. We can use supplemental nitrogen. And then we have all the combinations that you can imagine that we can do with that. We can do inoculation plus nitrogen. We can do only inoculation. So it really depends on your field, the history of your field, the texture of the soil of your field. It will depend which is the best option for you. So something that is really important is that, okay, the rhizobium, the bacteria that we use for dry beans is different from the one that we use for soybeans. So it's completely different species of bacteria. And why we're interested on this is because fertilizing costs money, right? So it's practically inexpensive to inoculate compared to actually to fertilize. But there is some risk. When we fertilize, we know that the nitrogen is going to be there, right? We know that that's going to be available for the plant. But when we are inoculating, we know that the conditions, the inoculation of our plant, it will really vary. If we have a hot weather and wet soils, we might be having problems. So for example, if your field have drainage problems, it has a really fine texture, you might have problems with inoculations because the rhizobium, the nodules doesn't survive when it lacks oxygen. So these are things that you should consider when you are choosing. And as we are talking about money, let's talk a little bit more about this. So this is a part of the work that Dr. Franzen did, and I find it really interesting. So we have the return of nitrogen in money in the y-axis, and then we have the rate of fertilizer in the x-axis. So basically, when we move towards here, we are fertilizing more than when we are towards the zero, right? Basically, what we can see is that when you're inoculating, the return of this investment that you do with nitrogen starts to decrease, right? So you don't need to fertilize as much as when you're not inoculating. Instead, if we see the blue line there, the not inoculation, we can see this almost a straight line. There is not much effect if you're putting 50 or if you're putting 150 pounds per acre there. So it's really interesting, this result. So the main message that we can get from here is that if you're inoculating, probably you won't see any positive response in terms of economics. If you put more than 40 pounds per acre, taking in account also the nitrogen that you have in the soil, you have to consider that. This is just a general idea. So if you're not inoculating, this value moves to 70 pounds per acre. Then I'm going to show this picture, and I'm going to say this is not something common for dry beans. And this is dry beans with iron deficiency chlorosis, right? So I know this is not common. I just wanted to bring this up because I got a couple of phone calls this last season with plants with this symptomology, and it was iron deficiency chlorosis. So if we compare with soybeans, dry beans are much better uptaking iron from the soil. So it's really not common that you will have this in your field, but it might happen that some years, some seasons, like the one that we have this year, it's really wet, and then all the process that the plant has to do to uptake the iron from the soil, it might be, you might have some problems. So if you see this in a really wet year, it might be iron deficiency chlorosis. That's the only reason why I wanted to bring it this time. And then, yes, I was just checking the time. I'm going to move to the last management practice I wanted to bring to you today, and is the variety selection. I just want to say it's something that you're all farmers, you are really used to, you know how to do it. You have to take data from several years and several locations that are close to the farm to make a decision. And I just want to stress the work that NDSU does with the variety trial data that we gave to you. I really want you to use that information, and it's really valuable because it's not easy to find sources of information that they are really unbiased, that they're not trying to sell you a product and really are just trying to give you the result that they got. So I'm just going to say that if you're interested to check this year dry bean variety data, I have some booklets here. So if you're interested, just take one. If not, just leave them at the bottom of the table and I will pick them up. This information is also available online. If you prefer to use it that way, just do it the way you prefer. So I have some news regarding varieties. So our breeder, Juan Osorno, got approved by the Variety Release Committee a new dry bean variety from the black bean market class. So that's not really available because it has to go through Greg Lardy for the final approval, but it's going to be coming really soon. So, and I just want to stress all the work that Dr. Osorno has to do to release a variety. So he had to test, besides just do all the breeding and all the selection, he tested this variety from 2017 to 2024 in 24 environments. So he gathered a lot of information before getting to you guys, and it's really valuable. So I have all the tables with all the statistics. I just decided not to put them there, just to not bore you with numbers. But if you're interested, just let me know and I will share the actual numbers. What I'm going to do now is just some characteristics for you to get familiar with this new variety. So if you're familiar, the yields range similar to ellipse and blacktails. And what I'm saying here when I'm saying similar is that we didn't find statistical significant differences between these varieties in all these trials that we did. The difference, one of the main differences with ND Twilight, that is the other black bean variety that the NDSU has, is that some farmers had some problems with ND Twilight, that it has some purpling, and they have some market concerns because of that. Well, this variety overcome that problem. It doesn't have this. When we're talking about canning quality, it will be the same as Eclipse. So it's not Sorrow, but it's Eclipse. It's a good quality. And then it has upright plants, which is important for having direct harvest. And then the last thing, and this is what it makes it really different, because so far we're seeing it's similar to, its tolerance to common bacterial life. So when we talk about this, when we talk about tolerance of these different diseases, we usually use scores. So when we score this disease, we say, okay, it can go from 1 to 9. Saying 9, it's really bad, and 1, it's completely healthy. So all the other varieties I have been mentioning, like Eclipse, Twilight, and Blacktails, they all behave kind of the same. They have a score of 5, which is okay. But this new variety is scored 3, so it has 2 scores lower than the other ones. And again, if you want to see the data behind what I'm saying, just let me know. I think I brought a copy here, and I can also send you by email. Talking about varieties, this is something that it has been going around, but I just want to stress all the work that Dr. Osorno does, and it's the slow darkening pinto beans. This is just genetics. There is only one gene that determines if you have slow darkening or if you have regular darkening. This might be really useful for a farmer if you cannot get into the field, or if you have it storage for a long time and you don't want that price of your product to decrease. It's really good to choose slow darkening pinto beans. Again, in the variety tray booklets, it will be marked at SD, slow darkening, and it's something to consider. And besides this, that is more a productive trade. That is okay. We can store it for longer without having a penalty in our quality. There are other key advancements. That is, it cooks way faster. It cooks way faster. And this is something that probably maybe in the future the industry will start requiring, because nobody wants to spend more money in fuel to cook these products, right? Then the seed quality and the agronomic performance is similar. You won't have more or less yield because you are using the slow darkening. We have, again, these genotypes have upright plants. And something that is really interesting from a war perspective, let's say, is that it's way more nutritious. So it has much more content of bioavailable iron. So if we're thinking that in the future, this might be demanded by the industry, if we're thinking in feeding the world. So this is all the production items that I wanted to mention to you. But if you want to grab your cell phone, if not, you have also the copies in the in the copies I sent you. I want to invite you to the Getting It Right drive-ins that is going to happen on February 10. We have an amazing set of speakers that they're going to only talk about drive-ins for half a day. So if you are into this, please join us. We are looking forward to having you. And this is a personal request that I have. I'm part of a multi-state survey that is looking for the opinion of the farmers on how is the digital ag going. Which is your perspective? Is this something that is going to help you? What are your preferences? So if you have 5 minutes, and probably will be 10 minutes to answer this survey, I will really, really appreciate it. Then, as I promised, all the publications I've been mentioning here, you can just get them in this shared folder. Again, this QR is also available in the printed copy that you have. And if you don't want to use a QR and you want to just send me an email, I will share all the files with you as well. So saying that, thank you so much.